So welcome to this brand new section where we're going to be talking about apps. So first of all, what is an app? Well, I don't think it really needs any introduction. I'm sure you're very, very well aware because apps are literally everywhere. And of course, you've got many apps, I'm sure, on your phone, and they're there to enhance the functionality of your basic phone. And with Shopify, it's no different. There are many apps that can help us improve the functionality of our store. And of course, there is an app store to go with it. And that app store can be found at apps.shopify.com. And at the moment, there are over 4,000 apps in the store, and it continues to grow more or less on a daily basis. So what I'm going to be doing in these next lectures is showing you around 30 to 40 apps, okay? The ones that I use, the ones that I think give you the biggest bang for your buck and really, really improve the business. So what are those apps? Well, what I've done is I've divided them into a series of lectures. So we're going to be looking at apps that can build trust and authority, those that can help us source products, apps that can drive free traffic, apps that help us with paid traffic, apps that boost sales, apps for customer service, and last but by no means least, apps for running your business. So there's going to be an app for everything. You're going to love this section. I've put a lot of thought into it, and it's really, really going to boost your knowledge even further towards your journey to becoming a Shopify expert. So let's get going. So in this first section on apps, we're going to look at building trust with the store. Now, building trust with your store is super important to increase sales and to keep customers coming back to continue to buy your products. But at the same time, it's important to realize that it's not something that's easily measurable. It's not like perhaps making a sale or placing an order or determining the effectiveness of a campaign. But nevertheless, many apps can help us build that all-important trust. And what I want to show you now are the ones that I consider to be the most important. Now, clearly you can see I've come to the apps tab, and there are already by default a couple of apps installed. You might have different ones installed. It doesn't really matter. I'll come back and talk about these later. But what I want to focus on right now is simply visiting the App Store, having a look at some of those key apps. We'll also install one as well so you can see exactly how the typical installation process works. So let's click on Visit the App Store. Okay, and so here we are now. Because it's just your first time, I just want to give you a quick spin around the App Store. But of course, as ever, you're going to grasp this very quickly, I know. Now, of course, apps are anything that effectively improves the functionality of our store. And the first thing I want to say is only get apps from the Shopify App Store. Even if you find something externally, I strongly encourage you not to install it because all of these apps that sit within the Shopify App Store have been approved by Shopify themselves, which is of course super important as you're building out your business. Now, as well as being able to search any apps by throwing in some kind of keyword, you can also look at them for categories and also collections. So let's dive into what we're looking at here, trust within our store. So let's type in the word trust, and we're going to find very quickly the app that I want to install for you. And up pop 485 results. Now, it's also important to realize that some apps are free and some apps are paid. Now, in my experience, it's really difficult to find a really good app that is genuinely free. Most apps by design will be free for maybe a 7 or 14-day free trial period, something like that, after which you will pay, perhaps to use the app at all or maybe to get some kind of upgrade. But nevertheless, whenever you think of installing an app, you've got to think that at some point you're going to be paying. And it's probably going to be around the sort of $20 to $30 mark per month. So you really want to think about whether you really need these apps. Because one or two, okay, maybe that's okay. But imagine you start installing 10 or 20. Suddenly you're into hundreds of dollars per month just for your apps. So it's really important to understand the ones that really work for you and make decisions that are genuinely going to positively impact your store, because that's the whole point. If you're going to buy an app for, say, $20 a month, you want it to return 10x for you. You want it to return $200 a month or $500 a month. It's an investment, not a cost. Now, I see so many people with Shopify stores installing all kinds of apps in the hope that somehow that's going to transform their store into a success. It doesn't work like that. The whole purpose of any app is to boost sales within your store, either indirectly or directly. Now, you'll have noticed, of course, that this is sorted by most relevant. That's what you would expect. But realize as well that these first ones that are showing, and I'm sure you've noticed this as well, are actually ads. They are sponsored. These people are paying for them to be here. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they are the best ones for your store. And so the best indication of all, really, to judge whether an app is good or not is to look at, firstly, the star rating. It's all marked out of 5, okay, so 4.9, for example, would be excellent, and the number of reviews, which, depending on the kind of app area or in the app category, will be relative. But I can tell you, for example, that 4,200 reviews is a lot, and if by average that's given you a 4.9 star rating, that is a very good app. And in fact, later on we're going to come back and look at this, Luke's photo reviews. But right now what I want to do is scroll down to this one here, Ultimate Trust Badges, which, as you can see, scores a 5 out of 5 with 481 reviews. So let's click on this, which brings us, of course, to the app sales page. It's going to give you all the information you need for the app before you go ahead and install it. Now, all of these, generally speaking, are laid out in a similar way. So once you've seen one, you've kind of seen them all, at least for the top part of the page. So, of course, you've got the title, you've got the description, you've got the star rating, the number of reviews, this button here, Add App, which I'll come back to in a minute, and the pricing. And this one is genuinely free. And you might say to yourself, well, why would something be genuinely free? Well, for the most part, it's trying to get you in the door with their other products. So it's highly likely that they'll try and upsell you or cross-sell you other products once a free app, a genuinely free app, has been installed. Because at the end of the day, there are no 100% free lunches, as I'm sure you realize. Now, often there'll be some sort of video over here, a nice little sales video, which will describe the app. And then as you scroll down here, generally talks about features with more of a full description further on down the page. Over here on support, you've got all the details that you need if ever you should need to get in contact with them to help you out with the app. And if we scroll towards the bottom here, of course, we then have all of the reviews, and this is a really good place to come every time you're thinking about installing an app, because of course these are the feedback from genuine people who have used it. So this one brings us tons and tons of 5-star reviews. So let's go ahead and actually install this app. So scrolling back up to the top, all we need to do, and it's the same for every single app, is to start by clicking on Add App. Now, I would say 95 times out of 100, installing an app is just simply clicking buttons, all point to click, very much in the style of Shopify itself. But now and again, you get one or two that are more difficult to install. But as a general rule, you really shouldn't need any technical knowledge. The other thing to bear in mind, of course, is if it's a paying app, you might have a free trial period, but sometimes they want you to enter your credit card details in now, today, so that you'll then be billed in, let's say, 14 days time unless you cancel. So of course, with anything like that, if you don't want to be billed, you'll always want to make a note somewhere in your calendar before those 14 days are up. Not all of them work like that, but I would say it is quite common. Now, the thing that does happen every time you install an app is you will get a page like this, the page you're looking at now, which is effectively a request for permission. So the app is saying, is it okay once I'm installed to be able to communicate with certain aspects of your store? And this isn't the moment to freak out, okay? This is absolutely fine. The app needs to be able to communicate with certain elements of your store in order to be able to communicate. And as I pointed out before, because you've downloaded it from the Shopify store itself, you can trust the installation. So as you can see here, it says Ultimate Trust Badges will be able to view Shopify account data, view products, manage your online store. And if you want any more details of any of that kind of stuff, of course, you can click into this. But generally speaking, you don't have to worry about any of these things that will appear on the permissions page. Equally, it's important to realize that should you have any problems with an app later on, you can always uninstall it with a few clicks. So with all that said, let's go ahead and install the app. Now, as I said in the introduction to this section, I'm not here to show you how to install every single app. And in any case, this is very much a moving target. You know, the whole purpose of this whole app section here is to give you a fantastic idea of what's possible with apps in order to massively augment the functionality of your store. But nevertheless, every app is going to want to take you through some sort of additional installation procedure to get everything set up, which I'm sure you can appreciate. So given that we're here, let's complete this process. So you can see here, it says setting up is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Install Ultimate Trust Badges. Okay, done. The next thing we need to do is to enable Trust Badges in your store, which is going to be a button hidden behind this help person here. Whoops, let's just come out of here and click on Enable. And so this is what's going to show up on our product page. So secure checkout with, and then various icons. And of course you can fiddle around and select these various badges. And as we move down here, you get various other features. And there it is, there's the upsell that I said would probably appear with any free app. So speed up checkout and boost sales with sticky add to cart. So a different product of theirs. And if I click on this and say get extended trial, take me back to the App Store and prompt me to buy one of their products this time. In any case, that's absolutely fine. That's how business works, right? So let's scroll down here. We've got various badge settings, etc. So let's just leave it as is and actually go to the store and see what it looks like. So let's click on our little eye. Let's click on our Discover More and just go to one of our products. Let's just get rid of this because now you can clearly see that we got some very nice buttons added to our store completely for free that really do build trust within the store. And it was all done with just a few clicks of the mouse. So let's now head back to the admin system and just refresh the apps page because I want to show you now that it's going to show up in the list of apps, of course. Okay, so there we go. Ultimate Trust Badges is now sitting here. Of course, if I click into this, I'm back into editing the app itself. And if I ever want to delete it, it's just a question of clicking the delete button over here. So congratulations, you've installed your first app, and you've also seen how simple it is to install them from the Shopify store. Now I've just realized that this lecture is starting to get a little bit long, so in fact I'm going to create a part 2. So I'll see you in a moment where we'll delve into a few more apps that you might want to install to increase the trust on your store. Okay, so welcome back to looking at trust apps for your Shopify store. Now I've brought you straight here to an app called Product Reviews. So as I'm sure you're aware, reviews are a fantastic way of building trust within your store and also increasing conversions because of course so many of us these days judge everything by the number of reviews there are and how positive they are. Now I like to recommend this app because effectively it's stood the test of time. It's been around forever. And in fact you can see that it's been developed by Shopify themselves. Of course every app has some sort of developer. Sometimes it'll be Shopify, generally not. Typically it'll be somebody from outside who's developed an app that has then been accepted by Shopify into their store. So while this app doesn't have the highest star rating, it does have a decent number of reviews, and as I say, it has been around for a very long time and is likely to continue that way. So if I scroll down here, you're going to see pretty much what this will do. Here's the media gallery. So if I click on this one, for example, it allows you to include customer reviews on your site. So for example, popping back to our site, we would have customer reviews down here on the actual product page itself, saying all nice things, of course, about our products. Now also within the admin system, you will get a nice interface that enables you to manage those reviews. So you get all kinds of options. You can probably imagine. You can either let people leave reviews publicly on your site and then decide whether you want to keep them, or you might get reviews that you receive from email from people saying, hey, I just got your product, I love it, in which case you could then add it in the back end and just show it on the product, or a combination of two. But nevertheless, I'm sure you get the idea. This is a very simple yet powerful system to enable you to include product reviews directly on the product page to help boost those all-important conversions. So this in many ways is quite a basic app, but another app which is really good is Loox, which I just referred to in the previous lecture. And this is all about collecting product reviews with photos, which is super powerful. Now this is of course a paying app, but going back to what I was saying before, if you're going to invest effectively $10 a month, are you going to get $100 a month out of it by using this app? My answer to that would be a resounding yes. I would say you're probably going to get 20 or 30x off of using a product like this, because what's so cool about it, as well as allowing you to have product reviews with photos on your site, it does stuff like this, where they send out automatic request emails asking customers for product reviews. So you can imagine somebody comes to your store, they buy something, and then 2 or 3 weeks later, they're going to get a very nice email saying, hey, did you enjoy the product? Would you like to leave a photo review on our site? And just to entice them, you can then offer them a discount for submitting that review, which I'm sure you would agree is a very powerful combination. So let's just scroll down here a bit and just look at the media gallery so you get an idea of what this looks like. So if we click on this one, for example, these are the kinds of reviews that are going to appear on your site. Really going to bring it to life, and it's really going to drive those conversions, drive those sales. So for me, Loox Photo Reviews gets a very big thumbs up. Even though it costs a little bit of money, you will get a massive return. And you can see here as well, you got 4.9 out of 5 in terms of the star rating and well over 4,000 reviews, which is massive. So those last two recommendations are pretty visual in terms of improving the trust, but something you might not have thought about is the speed of your site. The speed of your site is super important for trust. We all need sites, we all need stores to load very, very quickly, or we disappear somewhere else, okay? That's kind of a form of trust. It gives a certain credibility to your store, and if it's loading slow, it really doesn't make you look good. And so I've come over to another highly recommended app that is also free, in fact, called Page Speed Optimizer, which will help in a single click, as you can see, basically improve the speed of your store. Now, just as an aside, it doesn't have anything to do with apps, in fact, but I would like to give you a piece of advice, and that is to always be on top of how fast your store is performing. And there's a really easy way to do that. If you go over to Google and just type in here Google Page Speed, the first thing that will come up will be this, Page Speed Insights. If you click on that, Google will provide you with a free tool. So you can put in here your actual store address, click on Analyze, and it'll produce a bunch of results as to how well your store is performing. So let me do that. Let me just go back here, grab Daily Dog Delights. Let's go back here, put it in, and click on Analyze. And without going into the detail of the results, you can see I get a pretty good score. I would expect that. I'm on the Shopify platform. But what happens with your store over time, of course, is that you're adding more products, more images, more apps, no matter what it might be. And the speed of your store can vary. So it's a really good idea, just a pro tip if you like, to make a note in your calendar that every week, just come to someone like this and do a speed test on your site. Now, in fact, I noticed there isn't even enough data here to do a proper test. Of course, we just got a basic store, but I'm sure you get the idea. So this is your first port of call. Always make sure that your site is operating properly. Now, if you're still getting issues, then you can definitely make use of apps like this, the Page Speed Optimizer, to improve your page speeds. So let's delve a little deeper. Let's just add this app in and see how it actually works. So once again, the permission screen, let's click on Install App. And here we go. Now this is probably about the most simplistic dashboard you're ever going to see in an app, because all I need to do to switch this on is to simply switch it on with this little slide button here. And you can see here it just says your store is now loading faster. There's no other configuration needed. So it really couldn't be simpler, but as I say, don't use this as a last resort. Don't use this as an excuse to try and improve the speed of your store. Always make sure before you get to this point that your site is optimized as far as possible using the Page Speed Insights tool from Google, as I showed you. And then just for completeness, let's go back to our apps. Let's do that refresh so that we can see it sitting there amongst all of our other installed apps. And there it is. So in just a few minutes, I've introduced you to the concept of trust badges, product reviews, products with photo reviews, and site speed. All these things have a massive impact on the trust of your store, and I think you can see with apps how easy and simple that is to achieve. So in this lecture, I want to talk about sourcing products for your store. Now, up until this point, and in fact throughout the whole course, the assumption has kind of been that you have a warehouse somewhere where you're storing your products. Somebody comes to your site, they buy the product, you then go to the warehouse, grab that product and send it out. In other words, you're managing all of the inventory. Now, obviously, that's a great business model, and that's how the majority of e-commerce stores are run. But there are alternatives. There are alternatives to where you can get your products from. And one of those alternatives is called drop shipping. Now, whereby you are storing the products yourself within the more traditional model, with drop shipping, you never store the products yourself. What happens is you basically advertise the product on your store, but when somebody buys that product, you contact a supplier, and that supplier could be anywhere. Could be in China, could be in India, could be in the United States, could be in the UK, could be in Australia, could literally be anywhere, and you ask them to send that product direct to the customer. Now, this kind of business model has huge advantages. First of all, of course, you don't have to stock any products, which is absolutely fantastic. So you don't have any of the overheads of running any kind of warehouse or employing the kind of people necessary in order to get that job done. And secondly, and related to the fact you don't need to store any products, it's a business model that you can run from home. And it's enormously popular amongst solopreneurs. In other words, a person running a business purely by themselves as a fantastic way to secure financial future, literally from the comfort of your own home. Now, I'm not about to do a full-blown tutorial on dropshipping, but if you are interested in this model, I do have a course on Udemy called the Complete Shopify AliExpress Dropship course, which is 8 hours of tuition, which literally teaches you everything you need to know to build a dropshipping business from your home. Okay, apologies for the shameless plug. Let's get back to here, because the thing that I want to show you here is Oberlo. And Oberlo really has become the app of choice to enable you to perform dropshipping from within your Shopify store. So much so that in fact Shopify bought Oberlo some years ago, which is great because it means that basically Shopify and Oberlo go hand in glove and the two aren't going anywhere, which is always good because, as I said at the beginning, apps do come and go. The apps I'm showing you here are apps that have been around for a long time because you need that. You need that stability in your business. What you don't want is to install an app and then discover that it's unsupported the next week and then completely disappeared a few months later. Now that doesn't happen that often, but it does happen. You need to be aware that many of these apps are little businesses in their own right and they don't always succeed. So everything I'm trying to show you here has stood the test of time, giving you the stability that your business needs. Now I think probably the easiest way to explain how Oberlo works and just give you a little taster of dropshipping is actually go ahead and install this, and I'll do my best in the few minutes that I have in this lecture to give you an idea of how this business model works. So let's go ahead and add app. The now familiar permission screen pops up. We'll click on install app. And we arrive on the Oberlo dashboard. You can see that step 1 is already complete. Create or connect your Shopify store. So that's done. But step 2 is to add your first product. Now the way you do this is to go over to search products. And then within the Oberlo app, there are literally thousands and thousands of products that you can just push to your store. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. But just to let you know that all of these products are in fact coming from a website called AliExpress, which in many ways is kind of the Asian equivalent of Amazon. And the attraction here is that the prices are very, very attractive, which allows us to massively mark them up to sell on our store to create an exciting business. So let me just show you how you would add products to your store. Let's just imagine that we were searching, of course, on dog. So I've typed in dog up the top here and just click on search. And then let's keep this really simple. Let's take this very first product, this pet dog soft finger toothbrush, okay? Let's imagine that we wanted to have that on our store. All I need to do is click on add to import list. And then from here, if I go over to my import list, it's added it to the import list, as you might expect, which is kind of a holding pattern for products that I'm thinking about pushing to my store. Now at this point I can play around with the descriptions before I actually do that. So we've got here some pretty strange titles. So let's just take this off and call it dog finger toothbrush. Let's imagine that we put it into one of our collections. Let's just put it on the home page. I should really create a toothbrush collection or perhaps a hygiene one. But for the moment, let's just put it on the home page to keep things simple. Then over here on the description, we can take this out, for example, and I'll just put something silly like get this, this great toothbrush. Get this. Let's do that properly. Okay, all right. And over here we have the variants. Now this is the pricing. So here, for example, we are buying it for £1.04 from AliExpress. Now I tend to play around with the pricing finally in my Shopify store in the way that I've already showed you, but just to point out that these products come very, very cheap from this site. Finally, in the fourth tab you have the images. So here I can basically select the images that I want, and all these images have just been pulled off of AliExpress directly. So typically you find some images that you really don't want. So let's just click on the ones that we do want. Let's say we want to take this one, that looks good. We'll have this one, we'll have this one, and we'll have this one. Okay. Now all of these others, as you can see here, not particularly interesting. And now let's just say that we're very happy with that. All I need to do now is click on import to store. You can see the dog finger toothbrush is being imported and now it's finished. So if we go over to our store and go to products, there it is. The dog finger toothbrush has been added to the shop. So let's imagine that we want to go in here and mark up the price of this to something like, let's just say that we're going to sell it for £15, okay? We'll put it in at £15. We click on save. So let's just have a quick look at it on our store. We go to discover more. And there it is. Okay, so dog finger toothbrush for £15. So within a few clicks, we've put a product on our store from a supplier that could literally be anywhere. Now, what happens next, of course, is that somebody comes along and buys this for £15. We then go to AliExpress and buy it for £1 4p. Let's just call it £1 to keep the math simple, and you pocket the difference of £14. And as I say, all the while you've never ever had to hold any stock. Now, Oberlo actually goes beyond importing products because you can also manage your orders. It's a very, very powerful app, and it is free until you get to a certain point with the number of orders that you have. But to be honest, by the time you reach that number of orders, you really have a very profitable business on your hands. So you can afford their paying plan, which in any case, like most of the apps, is something like $30 a month. So that's Oberlo and dropshipping, and as I say, if you're interested, I would love you to join me on my course that I showed you just a few minutes ago. But Oberlo isn't in fact the only show in town. There is also other apps. One of them being that's quite popular at least is called Shopify. Now I just wanted to draw your attention to this one because as I scroll down here, I want to find this bit. Okay, so sort after products faster doesn't really make sense. So anyway, let's take it from here. Faster from AliExpress, Amazon, eBay, SamiDress, Overstock, Walmart, Wish.com, and more with a single click. So I wanted to draw your attention to this app because whereas Oberlo is essentially limited to AliExpress, this app will pull in products from all kinds of stores. Now, while that's fantastic for getting tons of stock, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can create an exciting business because dropshipping is all about the difference between what you pay for the product, so very cheap on AliExpress, and what you ultimately sell it for on your site. You've got to create that profit margin. And a lot of products that you're going to find on Amazon or eBay or Walmart are not priced as low as you need in order for that to happen. But nevertheless, it's another example of how much you can do with apps with Shopify. It really is crazy. Now, another app that I wanted to show you in the dropshipping space is called Spocket. And whereas with Oberlo and AliExpress products were being primarily sourced from China, Spocket focuses purely on dropshipping from suppliers within the US and/or the European Union. So yet another fantastic potential source to add products to your store. Now finally, I want to talk about something called Print on Demand, and in particular this app called Printful, which is another form of dropshipping that has become very popular in recent years, which has similarities to everything we've been talking up to now, but also some quite significant differences. So let me explain. With AliExpress and all those other sites that we've just been looking at, you take the product as it is from the supplier and you sell it. You don't have any input into the design of that product, okay? You just take it and you sell it and you're done. With print on demand, you have the opportunity to customize your own products. So it could be t-shirts, could be books, could be literally anything. So you can customize your own products to your own brand within your store. Of course, at that point, you're just showing the person an image. But when they buy it with an app like Printful, the order goes off to a factory that effectively creates your own product, which again is shipped direct to the customer in the traditional dropshipping way. So I hope what I've managed to achieve in this lecture is to open your eyes to some of the ideas in terms of where you can get your products from. In the beginning, we were just looking at holding onto our own products, to having our own inventory, to having our own warehouses. But in fact, you can now see that you can source products from literally anywhere in the world, and you even have the chance to customize your own products and build your own brand. So in this section, we're going to talk about apps that can help you bring traffic to your store. Now, traffic as a general rule is divided up into two main categories. You've got free traffic sources and you've got paid traffic sources. And once again, this is a ginormous subject. I could literally do about 10 courses simply on generating traffic. So what I want to do here is just show you some of those apps that are going to get you the biggest bang for your buck and really get you going. And so in this lecture, we'll talk purely about free traffic sources. And in the next one, I'll introduce you to some paid traffic apps. So this first app that can help bring free traffic to your store is related to SEO. Now, if you don't know, SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization, which is a whole industry in its own right that's focused on getting your store or indeed any website to show up highly in the search engine rankings. So if I were to type in dog products into Google, for example, I would want my daily dog delight site to show up as position number 1, if that could possibly be the case. And in order to do that, I would really have to master SEO. And I say master SEO because it is a huge topic. But this app, SEO Booster SEO Marketing, can get us off to a great start even if we don't really understand anything about SEO. And as you can see, it comes highly ranked with plenty of reviews, and there is as well a free plan available. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Add App so I can show you this in a little bit more detail. Click on Install App. And the first thing it does is it's going to give us a current SEO score, so to see how well we are performing out of a value of 100. So immediately I get 90, so actually I'm off to a pretty good start. But of course there's always room for improvement, and what this is doing in the beginning at least is just taking us through a very basic wizard. I mean, if I was to do a whole SEO thing, it would take me hours and hours and hours, and that's not what I want to do. I just want to kind of introduce you to how this can work for you, even if you don't really understand about SEO, and then as you get more and more knowledgeable, this app is actually going to follow you during the whole process. So it's a great app to have in your arsenal. So if we click on next, we can see then what it's going to suggest. And it starts to pull out some fairly basic SEO things. So you do not have a good page title for SEO, and you do not have a good page description for SEO. So if I click on Fix It All here, for example, it has done that for me straight away, which is amazing. Then if I click on the next button, the next thing it wants to do is to find all dead links. Now, dead links are simply links that don't go anywhere, and that's bad for SEO because it basically shows a page that to a certain extent is dysfunctional. So you never want to have dead links. Now, I don't think I've got any dead links on my site, but if I click on Scan Your Site, I'm about to find out. And sure enough, it hasn't found anything, so that's good news. So then I can just simply move on to the last finish screen, which gives me a nice thumbs up, at least in terms of the most basic SEO things I could do for my site. So if I come down here and click on Done, it brings me into the main dashboard where now my current SEO score is 100. It's fixed a number of issues and it estimated that it saved me 1 hour. Okay, but you can imagine that as my site builds up, I would need to keep coming back to this to keep checking my current SEO score, to keep fixing issues and making use of a multitude of additional functionality down the left-hand side here. So even with no SEO knowledge, you can slowly start to gain the expertise you need to help get your site properly ranked in the Google rankings so that you can really benefit from free traffic. So that's about the quickest introduction to SEO you're ever going to get, but at least you have an appreciation for it. And really SEO is one of the staples. It's one of the things you really need to understand if you're going to bring free traffic to your store. Now the next app I'm going to show you is completely different, a completely different way of driving free traffic to your store. And that app is called Free Traffic and Conversions. And here we're talking about traffic from other stores through gifts that drive sales. Now this app is a relatively new app that we're seeing some interesting results with, so I wanted to show it to you here. And you can see that although it's got a 4.9 star rating, it's only got 47 reviews, which typically isn't something I would look at. Normally I'm looking for many, many reviews. Now, just as an aside to that, at the same time as only looking at apps that have a huge number of reviews, it's always good to be keeping an eye out, keeping your ear to the ground for new apps that are appearing in the App Store that are suddenly starting to become popular and be accepted. So that's one of the things that we do in our business, because often you find a real gem, and I consider this to be one of those. Now, I'm not going to install this one. I just want to talk about the business model because it is super cool. If we go down to here, you can see that it says, attract more customers to your online store for free by displaying your gift cards in partner stores after checkout. And then, in turn, partners may display their gift cards to your customers after they check out. So if you think about this, basically what you're doing is you're looking for a store that complements yours. You're not looking for a store that directly competes with it. It doesn't make any sense. But for me, with my dog necklaces and what have you, I could partner with a store that, let's say, does dog training or dog bowls or something like that. Dog related, but not in exactly the same niche as me. And then when somebody checks out from my store, I could offer a coupon for my partner's store. So I'm basically driving then traffic to their store, and equally they can do the same for me. So when somebody buys something from their store, there's a coupon enticing them to come back into my store, hope I'm not confusing you here, to buy my products. So it's a fantastic way of generating not only free traffic, but targeted traffic, because everybody is effectively looking for the same types of products. And that sort of traffic converts really, really well. Now the final app, which is also very exciting, demonstrates yet another completely different way of bringing free traffic to your store. And that app is called Social Sharing Buttons. So this is using the power of social media to share the interactions, experiences and purchases that your users will have with your store. And it works with a multitude and ever-growing number of social platforms. So let's have a look at this in a bit more detail and click on Add App. And it brings us to this dashboard where we can choose from many, many platforms and effectively customize the look and feel of how we want these buttons to appear on our site. But just to give you a quick idea, if I were to click on Preview here, It brings me to my home page, but you can see that it's automatically added in over here on the right hand side a series of social media sharing buttons. So if somebody wanted to share my homepage, they could do that straight away either on Facebook, on Google+, I think that's a little bit dated, I would certainly take that one out, but Twitter or definitely Pinterest, all right? And playing around with these various buttons, you can see how simple it would be to allow people to quickly and easily share all the experiences they're having on your site and continue to drive more and more free traffic back to your store. So there we go, 3 very different ways of driving free traffic to your site, all of which, despite their differences, are very effective and a great way for you to drive more sales to your business without spending a penny on advertising. Now, the world of paid advertising is really very, very different, as I'm sure you can imagine, from the world of free advertising. And so it is as well in the world of apps related to these 2 very different ways of bringing traffic to your store. You've seen with the free apps that there are many apps, in fact, that we can use to drive free traffic to our store. But that's simply not the case when it comes to paid traffic. It basically doesn't work like that. And let me explain why. In the world of paid traffic, you basically have these huge platforms like Facebook, Google, Pinterest, Snapchat. They're changing all the time, many of them are up and coming, but you have these huge businesses that you will need to pay in order for them to drive their enormous amounts of traffic to your store. Now, as a result of that, there isn't really an app that kind of does it for you. You effectively have to go to Facebook, set up a Facebook account, and pay them to drive the traffic to your store. Equally with Google, you need to go to Google, set up a Google Ads account and get them to drive traffic from either Google or possibly YouTube to your store. And it's the same thing with Snapchat, and it's the same thing with Pinterest. So what it becomes really, these apps in inverted commas if you like, they're effectively kind of like interfaces, just so that you can see what's going on, what is the effectiveness of your paid advertising campaigns. Very much in the way that I was describing how the marketing section works within the Shopify platform several lectures ago. Now, with that said, I do want to expand a little bit on these 2 apps that came by default. So we had Facebook Marketing and Google Shopping. So if you look at the Facebook Marketing app over on the Shopify store, you can see that you can use it to promote products to the right audience on Facebook. But I want to draw your attention as well to this wording: create Facebook ads in minutes directly from Shopify, and then over here, track results and get recommendations that will fuel better campaigns over time. So that's what I'm trying to say. The app itself is not driving the traffic. It's kind of an interface. Yes, we can use this app to create Facebook ads should we want to. And yes, we can track the results. But the traffic is coming from Facebook. We need to go over to Facebook, create the account, and get it driven to our store. And to be honest, most people don't really use this Facebook marketing app. What we do with Facebook is we get a pixel from Facebook itself. We paste it into our store. It was in the settings many, many lectures ago. You probably remember. And once we've got that in place, the 2 are kind of linked. And then after that, we've got all kinds of ways of monitoring just about everything you could possibly imagine within the Facebook platform. Okay, but nevertheless, we could use this as an interface. And it's much the same story with Google Shopping. And so here you can see it says show products to interested customers across Google's network. Now, what you would have to do here is to set up what they call a merchant center account. You need to basically pay Google, is the short version of this, to show your ads, to show your products across their gazillions of various touch points. Now, I also want to draw your attention again to very similar wording. So the app will automatically create a product feed and upload it to the merchant center account. Okay, and then over here, see how your campaign is performing and adjust your daily budget, all without leaving Shopify. Now, it's very similar to Facebook in the sense that once we're paying Google for our advertising, they provide an incredible interface that tells us everything that's working and that's not working. And once again, this becomes more of a kind of an interface. And to be honest, it's much the same story with Snapchat and also with Pinterest. So these, I would say, would be the 4 big ones. You would definitely want to start with Facebook and Google to begin with, but just recognize these apps are not driving the traffic. I think I hopefully have made that clear by now. This is all about managing the traffic, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work, and sometimes making it easy for you to upload various ads onto their platforms. So in this lecture, we're going to be looking at apps that can help boost sales. So having got somebody onto the site, then we want to basically keep them there, get them across the line and make that sale. And I think that this is probably the area that is best served for apps. There are literally hundreds and hundreds of them that try to do something to make that happen. Because of course, and quite naturally, it's a huge focus area for any business. So what I'm going to do here is show you those apps that I believe give you the biggest bang for your buck, the ones that I've used a lot and therefore allow you to hit the ground running, much like I've been trying to do in all of these lectures on apps. And so I'm going to kick things off with the one you're looking at here, Lucky Orange. This is an app that's been around for a long time. And while it doesn't necessarily directly help you with sales, it does allow you to see what people are doing on your site so that you can make informed decisions. So let's imagine you run some sort of advertising campaign, people visit your store and you really don't know what they're doing on the store. Maybe they're leaving at certain points, maybe buttons don't work, could be anything. And this app actually allows you to record those sessions and see exactly what's going on. I draw your attention also to the fact that they are focusing on abandoned carts. Of course, we talked about that many lectures ago when I introduced you to the email system within Shopify to get people to come back and complete their purchase. Now, this isn't actually going to recover an abandoned cart, but at least it enables you to see why they could be abandoning the cart in the first place. And often it can be really something silly, like, for example, the payment provider button doesn't work or the screen just simply isn't opening. And you can see all of that within this app. Now, one word of caution, do not leave this app running all the time in the background because it does slow your site down. Of course, it's recording everything people are doing. So what you want to do is just use it now and again. Obviously, if you've got a problem, this is one of the first things we turn to see whether there is really an issue. But it's also good just periodically, maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks, just to make some recordings and feel comfortable that everything is going according to plan. So the next app I want to show you is called Hurify, which is focused on the whole business of scarcity. Kind of gently nudging somebody towards making the sale because there's a timer ticking down. This price is only going to be available for a certain period of time. Scarcity is one of the oldest tricks in the book, if you like, to get people across the line and make that purchase. Now, I've no doubt you've been exposed to this kind of tactic at some point in your various travels around the internet and buying things. And I would say with this, it's great, but don't overdo it. I see people overdoing these kind of countdown timers a lot. And I think people to a certain extent are a little bit immune to their effectiveness because they feel, well, it's not really limited in any way. It's actually going to be there when I come back next time, whatever it might be. But they are good to use now and again. And we will often apply something like this when we've got a product that's new on our site and we've just started our advertising campaign and we want to kind of gently push them towards buying our new products. Next up, we have Best Currency Converter. And I want to start off talking about this app by actually going back to our store to the settings and general, because you will remember at the bottom of this page, we had the store currency. Okay, so the main store currency that our site is going to be shown in. And of course, my site has been showing in pounds. But what if somebody comes from another country and they want to see your prices in their local currency? How are they going to do that? Well, they would do that with this app here called Best Currency Converter. And once again, there are many currency converter apps, but this is simply the one that I've used and recommend. And as you can see, it's got a high star rating and a gazillion reviews. Now, just to show you how this is going to look in your store, if I scroll down to the media gallery and click on this one here, you will see that basically what you can do is create any number of currencies within your store. Of course, you get a bunch by default, so you really don't have to do anything there. But if I just scroll over here, a couple, I want to show you, say, this one. Okay, so imagine this is your product page here. You're selling this ski here, all right? And you can see up here in the top right hand corner, you get this drop down list box. So here, the default store was in USD, but the user could change to any of the currencies they wish according to where they are. Now, that's not 100% ideal because, of course, the customer has to go and actually change that to get the currency in their local currency. But that's what you get with the free version, because Best Currency Converter, of course, has a paying version, and the paying version detects the IP of the address of the person, in other words, where they are, and then will automatically change your prices into their local currency. So it really is a very cool app. And once you go global, you know, in the beginning, it won't be so useful because probably you're just going to be focusing on one country. But when you go global, an app like Best Currency Converter can really help you expand. Next up, we have Pushowl. Now, Pushowl is a brilliant app that does a ton of stuff, but what we primarily use it for is for abandoned carts. Now, you remember with the Shopify system, we could use email. We actually needed the email for that system to work because we have to send them an email ultimately after they've abandoned their checkout. But with Pushowl, we don't even need the email address. As long as the person has been on our site and done something like put something in the cart, we can still reach them. And the way that it reaches them is with push notifications. Now, if you're not sure what a push notification is, you've probably almost certainly been exposed to it at some point. It's when you've been on a site and you've probably seen a little message that says something like, this site wants to send you notifications, and then you get the opportunity to either block it or allow it. And if you allow it, that means that that site can then send you what's called push notifications. Now, with that in place, it becomes a super powerful tool, because obviously with email, we need to get that email, we need to look through our email, and we're all inundated with email to a certain extent these days anyway. But with push notifications, it comes up straight in their face, wherever they might be, with any message that you might want to show. So just for example, once again, let's go down to the media gallery, because this is the main part that I want to show you. Let's click on this one here, for example. This is really going to bring it to life. So this would be an abandoned cart push, and of course all of this can be completely customized within the app. So you can see here it says, you have left a handbag in your shopping cart, here's a 20% off coupon code. Okay, great example of how you can use a push notification. And they've just left it in their cart, they haven't even dropped their email yet. So this is a brilliant way of getting people to make those final purchases, recover those abandoned carts, and really increase your sales. Moving on, we have Seguno email marketing, at least I think that's how you pronounce it. So of course, this app focuses on email marketing, which is again a big subject. Email marketing, despite what I just said with us being inundated with emails all the time, which is the case, but despite me having said that, email marketing still remains a very, very effective tool. And as a result, to be honest, the market is kind of swamped with email marketing solutions. But the nice thing about this one is it sits within your Shopify store, so that everything is neatly in one place. And so the app allows you to create very professional looking emails that you can then send to your email subscriber list, because as time goes by, of course, and people are buying from your store, you're starting to build up your own email list, and you really want to make use of that, because at the end of the day, it's a free traffic source. It doesn't cost you anything to send out a bunch of emails. So with just a few clicks, you can create some great looking emails for things like new product launches, for example. You know, imagine in the future you've got a list of 10,000 emails and you ping out some sort of email saying, hey, we've got a new product. The email looks absolutely great. It brings, let's say, 5% of those people to the store, let's say 500 people, and you manage to sell 100 products just simply by clicking a button. So email marketing is really worth it. It's also a great way just to kind of keep in contact with your customers by bringing them added value. So rather than just always pinging out, hey, I've got something new on my store. For example, with a dog store, I might just send them out some sort of information about dog care or nutrition, basically nurturing my list. I'm trying to build a relationship with my list. In fact, you'll often hear the phrase with email marketing that the money's in the list, but it's really not the case. The money is in how you relate to your list. If you have a list of people that are looking forward to your next email and willing to pretty much buy anything off you when they do receive it, you have a very successful business on your hands. Now, of course, you've noticed in this lecture that I'm not installing any apps. And the reason for that is simply because there are so many of them. I wanted to show you as many as possible. In fact, I had a list that was probably 2 or 3 times the size of the one that I'm showing you right now. And what I didn't want to do is create a lecture that is, 30, 40 minutes long or several parts, where you're just watching, for the most part, me installing apps. And often those installation procedures change in any case. So I thought it would be better just to kind of take you through at a higher level the various apps, and then you can explore for yourself in your own time. And so our next app is Exit Intent. So this is almost certainly another app that you've seen in action. You're probably thinking, hey, I've seen all this stuff before, and it's kind of cool to see how it actually works. So Exit Intent is a very simple process, in fact, a very simple method that's been around forever. And the idea is that, you've done something on the site, and then when you go to leave the site in any way, typically when you actually close the site itself, it'll pop up with some message saying, hey, wait, you got something in the cart, or hey, wait, we can offer you a 20% discount, whatever it might be. Again, a very simple and effective way to increase sales. Now, here's one that if you've ever been on Amazon, which I suspect is absolutely everybody, you will have seen in action, which is the classic also bought or the cross-sell. So the cross-sell is basically when you've got your product and then they're going to show you a product that kind of relates to it. Okay, that's the cross-sell. And on Amazon, you see people who bought this product also bought, and then a bunch of products underneath. And this app does more or less the same thing. And if I scroll down to the bottom here, we can actually go to an example store. So let's have a look at that. And you can see here in Fixie Lifestyle, there's a very nice bike on sale here for $329. But if I scroll down here, guess what they're going to offer me as well? I can buy a saddle, I can buy some leather grips, I can buy a helmet, I can buy some trousers. Not sure what the trousers are about, to be honest, but nevertheless, you can see, of course, all of this stuff will be totally customizable, and you get the idea straight away. So an app like Also Bought is fantastic, once again, for getting people across the line and increasing the cart value. You know, the average order value, the AOV, which is an acronym that gets thrown around in e-commerce an awful lot, is very, very important, because once you know what the average order value is, let's say it's $35, then you know how much you can spend on your customer to bring them to the store. So you might say, okay, we can spend $10 getting somebody to the store, and if they're then going to spend $35, we make a $25 profit. And these things like cross-sells and Also Bought really can boost that, because the customer's already on the site. They're super hot. They're in buying mode. They've got their credit card open. So now's the time to hit them with the possibility that they're going to buy even more products from your store. And I have no idea what the impact is on a business like Amazon, but I bet it's a massive percentage. My bet is something like 25-30%. That's the kind of thing that we see, and they obviously do it on a massive scale. So this really is an important one that you'll want to consider as you build out a business. Now, whereas this one is all about offering the customer something before they get to the cart, this next one, called a Reconvert, Upsell and Cross-Sell, is all about showing them something once they've bought. So this is all about having a thank you page for post-purchase sweet upsell, okay? So basically what happens is somebody's come to your store, they've bought something, they've paid for it, the whole thing's done. Again, they're super hot, they still got their credit card open, and what you're then going to do is show them a bunch of other products that might be of interest to them so that they can continue shopping. So keep the momentum going, if you like. So these guys also have an example store, so let's click on that to bring it to life. So here we go, I'm on this store here. Let's say I've just bought something here. This is the mock-up, and then the order's confirmed. A bunch of stuff starts happening, and here we go. They start proposing me other products, and they're even using a countdown timer in this place, putting a bit of scarcity pressure on me. All right, so again, a very, very powerful and simple tool, and of course, all of this, as ever, is completely customizable. And then that brings us to the last app. I know it's a very sad moment, at least in this lecture. And how I want to show you this is to actually go back to our settings, because this relates to languages within the store. So many lectures ago, we were in the settings and on the store languages. Now, of course, my default language is English, but we can also translate into other languages. And for that, we need an app. So if we click here on Visit the Shopify App Store, another way of accessing the App Store itself, we get some apps. Now, the one that I recommend here is called Langify. So if we click on Langify, we land, of course, on the sales page. Now, I think it's pretty obvious that Langify is going to enable you to translate your site into multiple languages. But it'll do a little bit more than that, because it will also detect where your user is based on the IP address, a bit like the currency converter app we were looking at. And then, depending on where they are, actually show them the language where they're based. So it's super cool. Now, translating websites is amazing, but you do need to think of it a bit more holistically, okay? Because imagine you translate into 5 different languages, which if you had a European business would be fantastic. But you also need to think that once people start coming to your site and buying stuff, they're probably going to need support in those languages as well. So if you're a multilinguist, that's absolutely fantastic. But imagine you start getting customer support emails in German or French or whatever it might be, and you don't understand what's going on, you're going to get yourself into a little bit of a mess, all right? So you just need to think about it from A to Z in terms of what the impact is of showing your site in many languages. But in any case, you understand the concept very clearly, and let's just finish off just by showing you the media library to see how it would actually work in practice. So here we are on their app. This is, of course, an English part of the site, and over here we have the German. All right, so translations side by side, and it's a pretty big job. I mean, you've got to go through the whole site, translate it, and then, of course, a site is never stable. It's always a moving target. You're taking products off, you're adding new ones on, you're doing blogs, you're doing this, you're doing that. There's tons of stuff going on. So as I say, translating is brilliant, but it does bring its own complications. So you really need to think about it before you dive in and start translating your site so that it's available to a massive global audience. So with that done, as I say, that kind of brings us to the end of this section. To be honest, this was a tricky one to do. I said before that I had many other apps that I was wanting to introduce you to, but I was also very aware of overwhelming you. I mean, I've showed you, 10 apps, something like that, in this section. And in my opinion, those 10 will take your business into the stratosphere. So you're going to do an awful lot with those apps. But with that said, I would always encourage you to look around the App Store and see whether you can find some other apps that might really suit your business and boost those sales to the moon. So in this lecture, we're going to be looking at customer service apps. Now, customer service, good customer service, is absolutely key, clearly, for building any kind of a long-term e-commerce business, or indeed any kind of business at all. And so these apps I'm going to show you now are going to go a very long way to helping you achieve that. So I want to kick things off with this one here called Help Center, as you can see. And this is all about building an attractive frequently asked questions page, an FAQ page. Now, this is something that so many people overlook. An FAQ page is a fantastic opportunity to build the all-important trust with your customer, not only answering their questions, but also demonstrating that you really know what you're talking about. Now, I've run many e-commerce sites and many websites, and I've seen through all of my statistics over those years that a lot of people visit the FAQ page, perhaps far more than you actually think. And although it's very difficult to measure the direct impact of an FAQ page in terms of sales, its indirect impact is indisputable, and therefore I really encourage you to build out an FAQ page, and using an app like this is going to help you do that. So let's actually install this app and take a quick look. So, add app, the standard permissions page, and then of course we land on their dashboard. So let's just scroll down a bit so we can see as much as possible. So I hope this is fairly self-explanatory, but basically you get a bunch of templates, and if you wanted different templates, you would just go up here and click on FAQ templates. But otherwise what they give you are the sort of standard sections, if you like. So we've got shipping, payments, returns and refunds, etc. And what's really cool is if I click on edit here, you will see that not only can I change the question, but it already gives me a nice template that I can work on to build whatever my shipping policy might be. So I can very quickly put together an FAQ page and just publish or unpublish the various parts of this page that I want. And then having done all of that, I can just click on linking FAQ with Shop's menu, and it takes me through this very nice procedure, which is going to, of course, add in my FAQ to my already existing menu, all the things we looked at in the past in the navigation section. So a very simple yet very powerful free app that I strongly encourage you to take advantage of. So Help Center is effectively a great way of letting your customers answer the questions for themselves by going to the FAQ page, clearly. But what if they actually want to get in contact with you while they're on the site? Well, this is another great app called Tidio Live Chat. Okay, so live chat boosted with chatbots and marketing automation. Now, this is another one of those apps, or at least procedures, that you will have definitely been exposed to at some point. You've been on an e-commerce site and there's a little kind of prompt down in the bottom right-hand corner, typically, that is offering to help you with anything that you might need. And that's great, but whenever we think about these things, we need to think about them a little bit more long-term. I think a lot of people just kind of install an app like this and don't really think about the details of it. So what do I mean by that? Well, when you offer live chat, for the most part, people are expecting to see live chat. And if you're operating an e-commerce store, generally it's available 24/7. You might have some quiet periods during the night, but if you're global, then pretty much you need to offer a 24-hour service. So for you personally, especially with all the other stuff going on, that's going to be very tricky in the beginning. Perhaps as your business grows and you expand, you can afford to take somebody on, a virtual assistant if you like, to help you with those kinds of queries. Now, having said that, of course, Tidio Live Chat and all these live chat apps are well aware that you aren't able to just sit there waiting for the next question to come in. And so within the app, there's typically a suite of tools. There'll be the live chat itself, then there'll be some kind of bot, so you can put a bot together that answers questions kind of automatically, and then there'll be the leave your email because the customer service isn't available at the moment. So not exactly full-blown live chat, but at least you are offering a level of customer service which will go a very long way to improving your sales. So let's just have a look at this in a little bit more detail. They do in fact have down here the view example store. I mean, you've seen this kind of thing in action already, but let's just head over there and have a look and see what they show you. Okay, so the first thing you notice is we get some kind of a push notification. We were talking about push notifications a couple of lectures ago. So they need permission to be able to communicate with you. That's the first thing. So if I click on yes, now they can communicate with me. I have allowed them to do that. And then, of course, there's the live chat itself down here in the bottom right-hand corner. Now, I'm not going to get into a conversation with these people, but either it's going to be real live chat, there really is somebody there, or it's going to be some kind of bot, or they're going to let me ask the question and then say, oh, sorry, nobody's here at the moment, but please leave your email. And then just to emphasize, I don't want to repeat myself, but as your business grows, you may well be able to afford to have somebody behind the scenes here doing all of this stuff for you, which is really going to help your business going forward. So a really great app, once again, that I strongly recommend. And then in a similar vein, the third app I want to show you is called Facebook Messenger Marketing. And no prizes, I'm afraid, for guessing that this is based on Facebook Messenger. Now, there's just a couple of things I want to say about messenger marketing initially, okay? First of all, it is very, very effective because the open rates with messengers are way, way higher than they are with emails. With email, you might get a 10 to 20% open rate. With Messenger, you're going to get something like a 70 to 80% open rate, which is amazing. But that leads to the second point, which is often the problem, because the temptation with these amazing open rates is to start spamming people, okay? And if you start spamming people, your account is going to be shut down almost immediately. And what I've noticed in the last sort of year or so have become a lot stricter, but that's fine because what we want to do is to use them responsibly. You want, as with your email, to start building a relationship with your list. So don't use it for spamming. Use it for sending them regular, good content and now and again the odd product promotion. And if you do that, your users will look forward to your next messages and really help you boost your sales. So let's scroll down. Once again, I want to show you the example store. So let's go over to that. All right, pretty straightforward. Pops up immediately with the push notification, a little bit like Tidio in fact. Hi, opt in and receive a discount. As soon as I click on send to messenger, now they have the right to send me messages. And those messages, of course, are going to be popping up in the bottom right-hand corner via the app. So in many ways, this is not dissimilar to Tidio Live Chat, but of course it is limited to people who have Messenger. If I didn't have Messenger installed, I wouldn't be able to use this, or they wouldn't be able to benefit from me as a customer. Nevertheless, the penetration of Messenger is huge, so there is enormous benefit from installing an app like this to grow your customer base and boost your sales. And finally, let's have a look at Aftership. Now, this assumes that you have done your great job with customer service. Many people have bought from your store, and now you need to track your packages. Now, there are some simple ways of tracking packages, but this app goes a long way to really improving that process. And the reason why I say that is because as your business grows, as more and more orders come in from places all over the world, you're going to be using multiple shipping companies, okay? And every shipping company has its own kind of tracking system. So let's imagine you've got 10 shipping companies and 10 tracking systems, and you're the person who's responsible for responding to all of the customer inquiries. I think you can already start to see that that's going to take an awful lot of time. So what Aftership does effectively is it regroups all of that stuff into one app. Okay, so you can manage the whole thing from one app, and you can also put a page on your website to allow your customers to track their own packages. Now, customers will do that a lot, but they will still ask you where the package is. It's just kind of part of it, and you can't really just turn around and say, do it yourself. Okay, that doesn't really work. You need to be able to provide this as a good part of customer service to tell them where their package is. So with Aftership, there's just basically one interface where you can put in a tracking number, it can associate that with the right shipping company, and immediately let the customer know what's going on. It also goes a step further because it tells you for each of those packages where they are for each of the shipping companies. So you've probably been on those sites yourself where you're like, where is my package? And you can see it yourself. Within Aftership, that's done for you as the store owner, but across multiple shipping providers. So this one is a huge time saver. I would say it's not one that you're going to be using straight off the bat. It's not really necessary, but as your business grows, definitely take a look at Aftership. So this lecture is going to be the shortest lecture when it comes to talking about apps, but I did want to include it because I just want to give you a couple of apps that are going to help you with just generally running your business. And the first one you're looking at here is called Rewind Backups. Now, straight off the bat, I want to make it perfectly clear that your site is fully and professionally backed up by Shopify. Okay, you have nothing to worry about in that sense, which kind of begs the question, in that case, why do you need to make a backup? Well, you need to make a backup because people make mistakes. Imagine, for example, that you deleted a bunch of products by accident from your store and you wanted to get them back. Shopify backs up your site all the time, so it's effectively lost. You can't go back and get them. But if you're constantly making backups, then you can retrieve that data. Now, you might say, well, that's not going to happen to me. It's really not a big deal. That kind of stuff happens to other people. But trust me, it's going to happen to you to some degree at some point. So I thoroughly recommend you have a look at this app. And in fact, let's go ahead and actually install it. So scroll down to the bottom of the permissions screen, install the app. And it presents us with their plans. Now, we're just going to start the 7-day free trial, but this is going to be one of those where we do need to enter our credit card details and then get charged if I don't cancel before the 7 days. So again, if you do this, do go ahead and make sure that you do not get charged if you don't want to by making some sort of note in your calendar. But for me, I'm going to click on Start Free Trial, which brings us into what they call their vault. Now, you see all these items here, okay? You recognize many of these things, and these have already been backed up, like straight away. Rewind has done the very first backup. And you see it here. Here you have last backup and then the date and the time. You'll also notice over here when the next scheduled backup is going to be, which is effectively in 24 hours, okay? So every 24 hours, it's going to come in here and do a backup. And that's just with this basic $3 a month version, okay? There are many features with the more powerful version, but just to get going, this is absolutely fine. Then, if you needed to do a restore, you could restore basically from Advanced Restore. Because as you can see down the bottom here, we got date and time. Your items will be restored to the selected date and time. So if I wanted to restore it to say yesterday, because I'd made a terrible mistake today, I could just put in yesterday's date and the time and restore my entire site to that moment. I can also do an advanced restore, so just restore specific items, but generally speaking, just let Rewind do its thing. It's going to be backing up your site every 24 hours, which is perfect to get started. So for me, Rewind at $3 a month really is worth it. It's kind of a bit like a grudge purchase. You know, when you buy insurance, you don't want to pay it, but when you do need that service, you're very, very glad it's there. And Rewind or backups of this kind, I feel, is in very much that kind of category. Well worth the investment. All right, let's move on to the next app. And in fact, I'm not going to show you an app at all. What I want to show you here is QuickBooks. So at some point in a business, of course, we need to do the accounting. Now, the way I recommend you do this is in the beginning, just record everything, and I mean everything, both all your sales, your expenses, everything associated with business on a simple spreadsheet. Okay, just do it like that. That's not going to be a problem as you get started. Now, on the extreme end, when you've got a business that's really functioning well, you're probably going to have an accountant to do absolutely everything for you, and all you're going to be doing is passing him that information. But a brilliant compromise is this piece of software called QuickBooks, which is very popular within small and medium-sized businesses. And as you can see, it's also very reasonably priced. Now, I'm definitely not going to be doing a demonstration on QuickBooks, but whenever somebody asks me to recommend some kind of accounting software, I'll always lead them to this. And one of the key reasons for that, particularly for Shopify owners, is because there's an app called the QuickBooks Bridge, which makes it super easy for you to transfer all of the data that's in your Shopify store directly into the QuickBooks software. So really making your life simple. So there we go, just a couple of apps and even one piece of software, which is going to go a very, very long way to helping you run your business as efficiently as possible. And at the same time, that rounds out this whole section on apps. I really hope you've enjoyed looking at these various apps, and I've really managed to open your eyes to the more or less endless possibilities with apps themselves. Now, of course, what I've done is I've sifted through the millions of apps, well, the thousands of apps at least on the App Store, to bring you those ones that I feel, as I said right at the beginning of this section, that give you the biggest bang for your buck. But that doesn't mean that's the end of the story. What I encourage you to do is to go back to the App Store yourself, look around now with all the knowledge that you have, and see whether there might be some apps for you, for your store, for those that you can perhaps recommend to your customers that are really going to help with your business and everything going forward. So absolute congratulations for completing this section. For me, apps are kind of the icing on the cake to this whole Shopify story.